Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video, episode number 1132, here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. Happy Saturday. I have your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag PAIV. Let's go ahead and get started. This question comes from Sean Douglas Brazy. Hey Aaron, thanks for everything. Question: do you think WWE is going to give Jeff Hardy one last world title since they are giving him a big push? I read and him getting his old music back? Question mark. I do think WWE will give Jeff Hardy a significant push in WWE. However, I'm not sure about him becoming world champion again. And the reason for that is Jeff Hardy is not exactly a guy that WWE can go fully behind as the top guy at this stage of the game in Jeff's life. Even if Jeff is totally healthy, no personal issues, you still have the risk of injury. Jeff Hardy cannot perform on a full-time schedule anymore. He's in WWE. He is making occasional appearances. He's not going to be working a regular schedule. Now, maybe in this current era, it could potentially happen with WWE not doing live events. There's always that possibility, but I think it's a long shot. I just do not see WWE going all the way with him, even though popularity-wise, he's as over as anybody else on the roster. He is an enigma. He is Jeff Hardy. He's one of a kind. The fans love him, and there's been talk about him using that song No More Words again. I understand not bringing it back at the moment because you have no crowds. And that's the kind of song that will get a huge pop from the fans. If Jeff Hardy could stay healthy, anything's possible, but it is a big question mark. 10, 15 years ago, a healthy Jeff Hardy very well could have had a long run as WWE champion. But one more run, I would say the odds are against it. This question comes from Cindy. Cindy asks, if Dark Side of the Ring has picked up for season 3, which subject would you like them to cover on that you are very interested? Also, thank you for bringing back NoDQ&A video. That is where I first found out about it via YouTube almost 8 years ago. It's been quite a while, Cindy, and thank you for coming along for the ride with NoDQ&A video over the years, and thank you to everybody else out there. For season 3, I would love to see something about WCW, the fall of WCW. There were definitely a lot of interesting stories, and it is a tragedy in itself. While it wasn't the demise of somebody personally, it was the demise of a company that really had no good reason to fail. This was a company that had millions of dollars and some of the best talent in the world. They should have been able to overcome and stay in business, and they did not. It's a fascinating story. It's very sad. It was indeed a dark day when WCW was sold to WWE. Perhaps the darkest day in wrestling that did not involve somebody dying. A lot of the Dark Side of the Ring stories, unfortunately, revolve around death. Now, I could see something about the British Bulldogs on a future Dark Side of the Ring. Dynamite Kid's story is quite tragic and dark. British Bulldog also. Brian Pillman is another one that I would be interested in seeing, and WWE exploiting his death by having Melanie Pillman interviewed the night after her husband died, the day after her husband died. That would be another interesting one. And there are some other ones they've gone through most of the biggest stories, but there are definitely some other stories that can be covered on a third season. What do you guys think? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. I got this question from Brandon. He says, what did you think of The Undertaker's The Last Ride, Chapter 1, The Greatest Fear, and will you watch all 5 parts of it? I really enjoyed it. It's very interesting to see Undertaker, aka Mark Calloway, finally break character after all these years. He was one of the few guys that would not do these behind the scenes interviews. And now we are actually getting to see Mark Calloway, the curtain exposed. We're getting to see him as a person, his thought process of portraying The Undertaker and how he made it work. It was very depressing at times to watch, seeing him limping and struggling to go out there and do one more match. And I applaud him for being honest about that WrestleMania 33 match with Roman Reigns. It was not a good match, and you get why it was not a good match when you see how he was struggling just to get to the ring. We've talked about how Undertaker perhaps should have retired at WrestleMania 30 when he lost the streak to Brock Lesnar, and that was also depressing to watch, him talking about having the concussion. I'm definitely intrigued to see what else he has to say about the WrestleMania streak and some of the more recent happenings in WWE. And I'm also curious in knowing more about the Attitude Era, the American Badass, and all other aspects of his career. Undertaker's career spanned 30 years in WWE. That's a really long time, and there's a lot of ground to cover, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. I have this question from Fahad. He asks, when do you think The Undertaker will really retire from wrestling? I think only one person knows the answer to that question, and that's The Undertaker. I would like to see it happen at Survivor Series, which will be the 30-year anniversary of The Undertaker's debut, exactly. November 22nd, 2020 will be exactly 30 years. I remember that very well because my birthday, November 22nd, and I remember that Survivor Series in 1990 very vividly. Seems like a nice opportunity for Undertaker to close things out on a high note, 30-year anniversary, but as he's talked about in interviews, he wants to go out in a big way. He wants to go out with a bang. I could see it happening at next year's WrestleMania. I do think it's coming close. The fact that he's doing these interviews now out of character, I think he knows the end is coming soon. And why keep going? I know he wants to do it. It's his passion. But if you're going to go out with a bang, the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to make that difference. When are you going to have another opportunity like the 30-year anniversary of the debut? I think it should be Survivor Series. It might be next year's WrestleMania, but who knows? Again, it's Mark Calloway's decision. This question comes from Callie. AEW has filled their empty arena shows with wrestlers in the audience from the beginning. It comes off as a party atmosphere and adds to the entertainment value. Do you think WWE has resisted doing this out of pettiness to not acknowledge that AEW one-upped them? I would hope not. I would hope that it's about safety and WWE just doesn't want to take any unnecessary risks. It could be a factor, though. The fact that AEW did it first and WWE does not want to come off as copying something that AEW is doing. I think it helps. It's obviously not replacing an arena full of people, but what AEW is doing is adding some kind of a soundtrack to the show, which every little bit helps. So I'm not sure the exact reason why WWE doesn't have some people out there, but could be a combination of a number of things. Maybe it's a safety thing. Maybe it's because of AEW. Maybe it's both. Got this question from Miguel Ortiz. Back when Hell in a Cell and TLC were not held in pay-per-views they were named for, would it get leaked if such a match was occurring? For example, did you know about the Hell in a Cell stipulation for Edge versus Undertaker or Undertaker versus Batista, so on and so forth? I do not recall anything specific in regards to something leaking out early. Back then, I felt like things were not leaked out on arena websites. Now it's ridiculous. Now you'll have the arena website saying Seth Rollins is facing Bray Wyatt in a Hell in a Cell match 2 or 3 months before WWE announced it. That did not seem to happen. If it did, it was rare. It's possible that a Hell in a Cell stipulation was rumored because with those feuds back in the day, a Hell in a Cell match would typically be the end of that feud, especially if it was a high-profile feud like Undertaker versus Batista, for instance, or Undertaker versus Randy Orton. You just sensed that the progression of the storyline would eventually lead to Hell in a Cell. So at the very least, there was a lot of speculation. Now, there's not that speculation because you only get the Hell in a Cell matches, with rare exceptions, at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And thus, you really don't think, well, maybe Edge and Randy Orton are going to have a Hell in a Cell match because it's unlikely that feud is going to drag out to October. I mean, it might with the way things are going, but you really don't think about it that way because it's so far out in the future. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thank you all for watching. I will be back with another edition of NoDQ&A video coming up tomorrow on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. Follow me at AaronRift. Send in questions using the hashtag PAIV. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors.